Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're looking past the surface of an absolute classic, The Great Gatsby. Now, if you think you already know everything about this story, well, prepare to look at its psychological depths through a completely different lens. We're going to strip away that shiny surface and really examine the profound psychological undertow beneath it all.
Okay, let's dive into this. When most people think of The Great Gatsby, what immediately comes to mind? We picture the roaring 20s, right? The massive, sprawling mansions, the champagne flowing like water, the extravagant parties, the shiny cars, just the sheer unapologetic pursuit of unbelievable wealth. And it is so easy to accept that surface-level theme because it's just so loud and visually overwhelming. But I want you to ask yourself a fundamental question right now. What if that entire pursuit, what if all that money was just a distraction? What if he was never actually chasing wealth at all?
Well, here's the thing. He was chasing time. That is the massive twist at the heart of this narrative. The money, the extravagant parties, the sprawling estate, it's all just a red herring. It's an elaborate stage set meant to disguise a much deeper and honestly far more tragic psychological obsession. He's not trying to buy status for the sake of status. He is literally trying to buy a time machine. He's using every single dollar he has to fight a war against the clock.
Section 1. The Wealth Illusion. This brilliantly illustrates the iceberg model of the story. Think about it. On the surface, we see the wealth, the status, the sheer extravagance. It's the loud music and the fireworks. But beneath the water lies the reality. A massive psychological undertow of the past, of memories, and of deep obsession. The surface is just the mechanism Gatsby uses to try and reach that reality. If you're only looking at the wealth, you are completely missing the actual story being told. Section 2. Obsessing over the past. Now, what's really interesting to break down here is Gatsby's belief system, because it's built on these incredibly specific, completely impossible illusions. First, he believes that time can be physically reversed. He doesn't just want to revisit the past, he believes he can actually wind the clock backward. Second, that moments can be recreated perfectly. He genuinely thinks you can set the stage exactly as it was years ago, and the actors are going to play the exact same parts. And third, that love can be rebuilt exactly as it was. Not a new love, not an evolved love, but an identical, perfectly preserved replica of a feeling from years ago. It's honestly a staggering level of delusion. Section 3. Daisy as a symbol.
So the crucial point is that Daisy is not a person in Gatsby's mind. She hasn't been a real, breathing, evolving human being to him for a very, very long time. She is a memory. She's a symbol. She's a completely impossible fantasy of perfection. I mean, he's spent years taking his memory of her and just polishing it, removing all the flaws, ignoring all the changes that naturally happen to a person over time. He isn't in love with the woman standing in front of him. He is in love with a frozen, idealized ghost from his own past. And that brings us to the most famous image of the story, the green light, sitting right there at the end of her dock across the water. It is the ultimate beacon of this illusion. It represents that deep psychological undertow we talked about earlier. It's close enough that he feels he can almost reach out and grab it, but it remains permanently across the water, forever out of reach. It's the absolute visual manifestation of a fatal chase for a fantasy.
Section 4. When dreams collapse. This is the harsh, cold reality of time crashing into Gatsby's fantasy. Time does not return. Time only moves forward. You cannot live inside a memory. No matter how much money you have, no matter how grand your parties are, or how perfectly you try to set the stage, the clock only ticks in one direction. You cannot live inside a memory. And this is exactly why the dream must collapse. A memory is static, right? It's like a photograph locked away in a drawer. But life is dynamic. It breathes, it changes, it degrades, and it moves on. Gatsby's tragedy isn't that he lost his money or that he didn't try hard enough. His tragedy is that he fundamentally refused to accept the rules of the universe. He tried to inhabit a ghost town of his own making. Section 5. The Modern Gatsby. Let's see how this builds and connects to us today. We look at Gatsby's fantasy of rebuilding love exactly as it was, constructing a massive mansion just to catch the eye of a ghost from the past. But consider our modern parallels for a second. Don't we do a version of this every single day? We use our social media profiles as our own sprawling estates, carefully curating only the most perfect, idealized versions of our lives. We constantly look backward, romanticizing who we were, applying nostalgic filters to our own pasts, trying to freeze moments in time so we can live inside them forever. We are all, in our own ways, fighting that exact same impossible battle against the forward march of time. So, I want to leave you with this final provocative thought.
What green light are you chasing in your own past? What impossible memory or idealized fantasy are you reaching for across the water instead of living in the reality of the present moment? It's a question that requires some deep and, yeah, sometimes uncomfortable reflection about our own illusions. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer today. Keep learning, keep questioning, and I'll see you next time.